Magandang hapon, my friends, and welcome back to another video. And sadly, it's one of my last videos here in the beautiful country of the Philippines, but the last video for this series. I'm going to be coming back real soon because if you guys have followed along my 26 or 25 videos I've already posted, you've probably noticed I have had the time of my life exploring the Philippines, and I've only seen a very small amount of everything you can see in the Philippines. I mean, guys, I was only in Manila or the greater Manila area. I was also in Boracay and El Nido. So as you can imagine, this means I need to come back many, many times to the Philippines. So yeah, guys, I just want to share with you in today's video my full experience. You asked a bunch of questions on Instagram, and so if you want to be involved in asking the questions in the future, make sure you go to my Instagram right here at World Nomac, and that way you can submit any questions. Whenever I visit a country, I always do a question and answer video after almost every single video, and so this will give you the opportunity to submit your questions, and I answer as many of them as I can. And so I'm going to go right through the list. They're not in any specific order, so I'm just going to randomly start reading through the questions. So stick around because your question might be in there, or you might find something very interesting the way I experienced Philippines, or if you're planning to travel to the Philippines, this could be the perfect video for you. So let's go ahead and jump right in here. Well, of course, the first question from Kix Alicious, when you coming back? Well, I would say probably within the next 12 months, I'm going to do a trip back to the Philippines. I don't know exactly when. However, like I said, it was just a quick trip there. I made a lot of content, but I didn't get to explore that much of the Philippines yet. So it's going to be, yeah, I think you can expect to see me in the next 12 months for sure. From Ideub, is it easy to travel solo and to move around? Yeah, so my experience in the Philippines, it was very simple to travel around. There's a lot of public transportation to get around. There are so many things to do in the cities, and there are very inexpensive flights to get you to the islands if you want to go. I think I maybe paid like $70 for a one-way flight to, I want to say Boracay the same day I literally booked it. So if you book it further in advance, I bet you can get it for like $30 or $40 even. So for me, coming from a US budget, it's a pretty inexpensive price for me to, travel around. There's a lots of ways to get around, like the mainland, around Manila area. You can take buses and like other means of public transportation. And so there are some like risky areas in the Philippines, just like there are in every place. Now, personally, I explored a lot up by foot, and I never ran into any sort of issues. Something you'll find might be, let's say, like pickpocketing or things related to that nature of like petty theft is what I was warned a lot in my comments. I personally never experienced that, but that's like your biggest risk from what I understand. That being said, in every place in the world, you're going to find risks, and you're going to find, bad people and good people. So I always recommend, letting someone letting a loved one know where you are, or maybe sharing your GPS location on your phone, just as an extra safety measure. From Yoj Moore, not all Filipino love karaoke. Me sometimes long. My family is a Catholic, me Christian born again. Very interesting comment there. You touched on quite a few points. Next one. Janine Lorenzo, any requirement for the airport to get through? When I went as an American, it was visa on arrival. So depending on which country you're coming from, that's going to vary. I would definitely check the Philippines website. They have that very clearly listed on which countries is visa on arrival, which countries you need to apply for in advance, which countries you need to go to the embassy. Another thing I'll mention, when I went, I needed to be vaxxed. So previously you needed a COVID test, not when I went, because I was vaxxed, but these things always change. So I always recommend to check those websites, because the time you might be watching this video could be the same day I posted it, could be a month, could be a year later that you decide to watch this video. So the regulations could drastically change, as we all saw during the pandemic. Moody Mood 01, best places to visit with kids. I would say if you're flying into Manila, you can stay in the Ocean Park area. There's a lot of there's a zoo, there's an aquarium, some cool places to bring the family. You're close to Rizal Park. And so these are all very family friendly areas to go to. You can also visit the malls, you can visit the theme parks. So you can do a lot of things with family in Manila. Now, if you want to get a bit more of that beach vacation life, I can recommend Boracay. I can recommend El Nido. They all seem very family friendly. Whether you're going with friends, whether you're going as a couple, whether you're going alone, whether you're going with a family, I think really you can find stuff to do for all ages in these places. From Musubi Libre, Rodrigo, he messed up badly. You know, Rodrigo, there's so many differing opinions on Rodrigo. For me, overall, I had a really fun time exploring with Rodrigo. No matter what his intentions were, I think he's a great guy. I don't think he deserves any punishment or anything bad for what he did. I treated him well on that trip, and I gave him a lot more than someone would make doing that same sort of tour. I think I probably gave him 3 or 4 times, maybe even 6 times from what some of the comments are. But of course, you know, there's other people's opinions that, oh, you're an American, you're coming from the US, you should be paying that price anyways. So there's differing opinions. Right now, I'm not here to discuss who I agree with and who I don't. But like overall, Rodrigo gave me a massive amount of fun. He was great energy. And so, you know, he did try and make a little bit of extra money off me at the end. And I didn't find it to match up very well to how he was the entire rest of the time. But that being said, I still would go back and see Rodrigo and do another tour with him. But I would just make sure I make it very clear at the beginning what the expectations are on price. Because some of you guys did argue that Rodrigo maybe was just bad at math. And that's completely okay if that was the reality. But if he does this for a daily business, I would have the expectation that he would have done this enough times to be aware of, you know, 1, 2, 3, or 4 hours and what the calculation is. But that said, I'm not going to make assumptions on him because either way, I had a great time with him. But Rodrigo, he's a good man, and I can't tell you exactly what his intentions are, but I don't feel comfortable saying anything negative about him because I had such a nice time with him. So that's my opinion. Sanakolashi, where did you learn to speak Tagalog? Nice videos. I would not say that I speak Tagalog, but salamat, kuya or ate. I can't tell based off I think you're ate. Yeah, salamat ate. I actually don't really know how to speak any Tagalog. I just know some of the basics. Anong pangalang mo, which I've learned through the comments that my accent's quite off. I know like magandang gabi, magandang umaga, magandang hapon, basically good morning, good afternoon, good evening. And I know magkano, how much. I know a handful of words that I can't think of them off the top of my head, but I know like the basic phrases. What I do before I go to any country is I have one of my team members help me put together a list of what are like the basic words you need to know to communicate with locals. One, because people love when you use words in their local language. It makes them feel a little bit more at peace, at home, comfortable. It makes them feel a little bit more, let's say, connected to you, this foreign person in their land, right? And then number 2, for safety reasons. So yeah, hopefully the next time I come to the Philippines, I'll speak even more Tagalog. I find it a really fun language to learn and quite easy to pronounce the words, even though my pronunciation's off. Like I've learned a couple other languages, or let's say the basics in them. And there's languages like Arabic that is so hard because of the different letters that, you know, in the English language we don't use, where I find a lot of similarities in Tagalog in terms of some of the pronunciations. And I do know a bit of Spanish as well. And so there's a bit of, there's a lot of influence of various languages in the Tagalog language, but just pronunciation and things like that, it's a bit easier for me to comprehend. All right, we've got Jonas Signo. More videos, please. Well, I'm sorry, but sadly, this is probably one of my last videos. That said, rewatch a couple of them, and then hopefully in the near future, I'll be back to the Philippines to make a lot more content. From Shard the Third. What's the best thing you love about the Philippines and its people? That's a great question. I would say the Philippines, let's say, I'll answer the question about the Philippines, and then I'll answer about the people or the culture. So the Philippines is incredibly beautiful. The one thing I'll tell you is if you're looking for like the most picturesque views, beaches, white sand, ultra blue water, Philippines is the place for that. It is the definition of a vacation hotspot. And it's what you see on like your desktop screensaver because it's just literally that beautiful that it blows my mind, honestly, even remembering all of the amazing places that I was able to see in Boracay and El Nido. But aside from that, let's say when it comes to the people, what I found with the people is they're very gentle and kind. And that for me is like something that's huge when I visit a country. The second I arrived there, I felt welcomed. I felt everyone was like very well mannered and approachable. In general, Filipinos are a bit shy. I did notice that, which isn't a bad thing. I just noticed they're a bit shy because when I asked for like directions on the metro and things like that, sometimes people would be a little bit shocked to maybe speak so loud publicly, which isn't a problem. It was just something that I realized at first. I was like, how come nobody wants to help me with directions? But yeah, overall, I felt super welcomed by the people of the Philippines. I made a lot of new friends there. I met a lot of locals on the streets. The interactions were so much fun. All right, next question. Andrew Hamildang, gmail.com7. Sorry, I'm probably butchering some of these names, but I'm reading them on the go. How's your travel experience in the Philippines? Yeah, overall, some of these questions are kind of like the same, but worded a bit differently. Like my travel across the Philippines was super simple. The airports were overall efficient. I got from point A to point B quite easily. I thought it was pretty awesome to see how small like some of the airports were. Like the one that's actually in El Nido, I think there's only like 3 flights or something per day, and the size of the entire airport terminal, like the security, the check-in, everything, it's like the size of a small house. And so I thought that was like just such a cute little airport to be able to fly into, and also shocking because I've seen airports like in the US that are like small little private airports that are like 50 times the size and no commercial flights come in. And this tiny little airport was able to have commercial flights. So just really, really cool to see that. Reem Melmo 24. Do you get scared flying or get nervous, especially since you travel to places that are far? To be honest, no. I don't usually get nervous to fly on airplanes anymore. When I first started traveling, I did have a couple experiences. I remember I studied abroad in Spain in 2012, and I was flying across the Atlantic Ocean after 4 months of travel, such an amazing thing. And I was flying back to the US, had those nerves and excitement to go see your friends, family, everything. And so you just want to get there, right? Like that, just like the excitement. I don't think it's really as much nerves, but you're just kind of like anxious to get there. And I remember like being half asleep and then going over the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and I looked at like the location of where the plane was, and the plane was just getting absolutely shook back and forth, side to side. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is insane. And that was pretty bad turbulence. And I was like, okay, if I could get through that, I can get through most. Then fast forward later down the road, I was flying with some coworkers when I used to work in Washington, D.C. and New York. I would basically fly back and forth before my YouTube days. And I was landing in the JFK airport, probably like 6 minutes from landing. Ice cold in the middle of the winter. I'd say probably negative 10 Celsius, like, I don't know, maybe negative 20 Fahrenheit, negative 30 Fahrenheit with wind chill, just ice cold outside in the middle of like January or February. And I'm on like a pretty small plane. I think it was either, I want to say, I can't remember the exact size of the plane because I got like a free upgrade up to first class. So I was in a nice spot, I'm not going to lie, but I was on a very small plane, which obviously the smaller the plane, the more the wind's going to basically be able to knock it around and you'll be able to feel that turbulence. And the plane was getting rocked. Normally like the plane like bounces side to side, but this one was like getting pushed in like all these different ways. The airline attendant got thrown on the floor multiple times, and then she was in the bathroom, and actually she was regurgitating, for lack of better terms. You can use your imagination. And when she was in the middle of that, the door swung open and she like fell, and I was like, okay, this plane might actually have a serious issue. And so my coworkers and I, we weren't sitting next to each other, but when we all got off the plane after, we were like, we all shared that we were looking out the window, flying into like the Long Island area where JFK is, and seeing all the boats and thinking like, which boat are we going to swim to if it goes down? So like if we were all thinking that, who have flown a lot, like it just goes to show you how insane that turbulence was. And ever since I was on that flight, I really don't ever get nervous from turbulence because it was just so intense that I realized how much a plane can actually withstand when it comes to like turbulence and weather. Like just experiencing that and realizing, oh, the plane still landed fine and there wasn't much of an issue besides like obviously in the cabin. I think the flight attendant had better days than that. But yeah, not anymore now. So I'm kind of glad those experiences have happened because it made me a little less afraid. But one thing I want to mention, like when it comes to flying, you're more likely to die in a car accident on your way to the airport, statistically speaking, than you are in a plane crash. So that gives you a little peace of mind. But I know if you're not experienced with flying, you hear those horror stories on the media, you hear the tragic, recent events of the Nepal flight that went down. A lot of those things will live in your mind when you're on that plane and you feel a little bit of turbulence and it's a foreign feeling for you. You're going to be like, oh my God, this is scary. But it's not. And hopefully you'll never run into any issues. Nick.meadows77, did you feel unsafe at any points in the Philippines? I don't think so. There was some times when I was walking through like Divisoria Market or Tutuban and I was like carrying my bag, but I was filming. And some people came up to me and said, hey, careful, like this is an area where people like pickpocket or will rob you quite often. And so I was a little bit more on alert, but I didn't have any attempts or anyone that I noticed attempted to pickpocket me. But it sounds like with the amount of locals that came up to me, it is a pretty common problem there. So that's like the only type of concern I really had while I was there. But I mean, I walked around some places at night. I actually walked almost all the way back from Mall of Asia to Binondo. I walked halfway, and you're probably like, there's no way. But I literally did, because I was having such a hard time negotiating a reasonable price with the taxi driver, and I wanted to get the exercise that I literally walked like over an hour. And maybe I just got lucky, but to be honest, I didn't have anyone approach me or ever make me feel unsafe. But of course, like with all places in the world, there's definitely parts in Manila or the greater Manila area or the Philippines that you do need to be careful. There are dangerous people out there. But I don't want you to think that just walking down the road, the likelihood of something happening to you is that high, because I spent a lot of time walking everywhere, and I felt very safe. MGV.86, your list of favorite places to see in Manila and places to eat, please. Well, I'm going to make a great recommendation for you. If you go to the description in my bio and you click things to do in Manila video, I actually have a separate YouTube channel called Nomac Guides. And on there, I make videos that are specifically for tourists planning on going to one of these destinations that I make videos on. And I take some of my vlog footage, and then I take this studio footage that I'm like studio area that I'm in right now, and I make kind of a hybrid video, which will cover all the recommendations. So if you go there, I'm going to answer it there for you even better than I could right now in this video. From JC32604, how many days should I spend in Manila, in Cebu, and Boracay? I would say you could probably cover pretty much everything in Manila in 4 or 5 days if you just wanted to do some of the highlights. And then Boracay, I would have loved to lounge in Boracay for like 6 days maybe. It just depends on how much relaxation time you want. Now, Cebu I haven't been, but if anyone has been to Cebu, drop a comment below and let JC32604 know. Thank you very much. It's lovely, Shane. Do you have plans to come back in the Philippines soon or someday? As I kind of already answered, I don't have a specific date that I'm coming back, but I loved filming there, loved meeting all of the Filipino people that I had the opportunity to meet, and I've really enjoyed making my videos there. I just had a lot of fun overall, watching back my edits and looking at them. There's some countries I've been to when I watch back the edits and I'm like, okay, all right, let's move through the video, let's go. But like when I watch back the Philippines videos, I'm like, this is amazing. I'm watching it for entertainment like multiple times over while I'm editing the video. It's lovely, Shane. What Filipino food you like the most? To be honest, that's a hard one to decide. I don't know if I'm just not able to think of it at the moment off the top of my head, but I would say like I do love how much Filipinos like to do their barbecues. Like I'm a big barbecue guy. Barbecuing is big in the US, grilling out, getting that fresh smell of smoke, basically smoked right into your different meats. That for me is so delicious. And the fact that you can find it all over the Philippines, really fresh, really delicious, and at a great price, I find that to be one of my favorite things to be chowing down on. Jadnu Trans, are you currently in the Philippines? No, I'm actually in my office in Lebanon right now. Anthony Malouf, speaking of Lebanon, it's better than Lebanon, ? I get this in every Q&A. Lebanese people are always asking me if the country's better than Lebanon or if Lebanon's better than the country. So in reality, like Philippines and Lebanon are like completely different places in almost every single way, but there's things I love about both of them. You get great beaches in both of them. You get really kind people, delicious food, great prices as an American coming to these places. Just a lot of very memorable experiences in both places. But keep in mind, I'm a bit biased anyways when it comes to answering questions about Lebanon. My fiance is from here, and I literally have an apartment that I'm in right now inside of Lebanon. So obviously I spend a very large amount of time here, and I know the small little country super, super well at this point. But I like both. So I got to answer that diplomatically. Rate from 1 to 10, how's your experience in the Philippines? I would say probably an 8. And the only reason it's not a 10 is because I didn't spend as much time exploring as much as I wanted to. There's just so many other things in nature I wanted to do, more cities. And so I felt like when I was flying out that I just didn't get to see everything I wanted to see. So I don't think that should actually affect my rating, but it is going to affect my rating because it's going to give me a reason to come back to make that rating 10 out of 10. But I loved it. So Film art pictures. Top things to do in the Philippines during a 12-hour layover. Once again, check out my Nomac Guides channel, link in the description. You'll be able to find out what those things are that you can do. From Just Nuggets. Kamusta ka, Kuya Mac? Ayos lang, mabuhay, Philippines, woohoo. Thank you very much. Salamat ate. So kamusta ka, that means how are you, Kuya Mac, Brother Mac. Ayos lang, very good. Mabuhay, I believe that means welcome. Mabuhay, Philippines, woohoo. Welcome, Philippines. Woohoo! Right, Yaruhe? Right, baby. Got the fiance involved in that one. So let's see here. Lal Crow, what did you least expect? That's a hard one because I've got a bunch of friends who are also vloggers who have been to the Philippines. And, you know, we talk about all the countries we've been to. We watch each other's videos. So I kind of knew a lot about the Philippines already. But I would say the one thing is I had heard a lot of like risky things, like walking down the roads and all these things. There'd be like a lot more sketchy moments that I would encounter. And either I got lucky, knock on wood, or it's just not as big of a concern as a lot of people made it out to be. But in general, as I've traveled around the world, people have a tendency, and we all do this, including myself, that if you hear one bad thing about a place that you don't know, you start to build a perspective or a perception of this place based on you hear this news, this news, this news, and this news. And then all of a sudden, a place that might be an amazing place could become a very scary and concerning place. I'm always so shocked to hear, not anymore because I'm used to it, but, you know, unfortunately, that there are so many shootings in the United States that so many people are so scared to come to the United States. They're terrified of visiting, that I've met while traveling because of this. And you have to realize they're terrified to visit the United States, which I consider, outside of like most recently, like a pretty safe place to explore. But, you know, you hear of more and more of these incidents and you're like, wow, that can literally happen anywhere. You know, it's really tragic, really terrifying. And so, you know, you put that on your own culture or you look at that towards someone else's culture or country, you realize that if, you know, whatever people consume in their media, that's the perception they're ultimately going to build of the country. So I would say I was, as always, very surprised how much safer it actually was than maybe I was originally concerned. That said, exercise caution as always, guys. You know, whether you're a solo traveler, group traveler, female, male, or whatever, it's better to always exercise caution. You know, try not to go out partying too hard and then be on your own walking around. These types of things you don't want to do anywhere, right? Because it just gives people an opportunity to take advantage of you. Mana Mais Revs, what was your favorite part visiting the Philippines? That's such a hard question. I would say like always just the opportunity to interact with so many locals is my favorite thing. But if I have to pick like a destination or something, I would say Boracay. Boracay was awesome. There was just, it's a massive island. You can find like local side of stuff. You can find touristy stuff. And there was good Wi-Fi from the places that I was able to use it at. Great massages, great food, a lot of water sports. It just was like the epitome of a great vacation destination. So it's definitely going to be a place where I'm going to like hang out for like, I don't know, a week or 2 weeks. Maybe take the fiance there. Woo! I think she likes that idea. And then we've got another question here from the man, the myth, the legend. Go with Ali. When are you going back to the Philippines, Kuya? So a lot of you guys probably know Go with Ali. Him and my other buddy, Harry Jagard, they went and explored the Philippines together, I think last June, July, something like that. And so I watched a lot of their videos before I came to the Philippines. I also learned a bit of Tagalog from them in advance. That's the secret right there. But there's a very special surprise. I don't know if Ali knows that I should be sharing this or not. And those of you who've made it this far in the video are the only ones that are going to know. But Ali is coming back to the Philippines very soon. So make sure you go on Ali's page and drop a comment on his like latest video. I don't think he's started releasing yet by the time you're watching this video. But if he has, drop a comment and say, Kuya Mac sent you here. Ali, mabuhay to the Philippines. We're waiting for you. Kuya. Oh, look at this. The fiance is hooking me up with, wow.
Do you like it?
World's greatest fiance right here.
Thank you.
Thank you, my love.
I said thank you to the audience.
That looks Taibe, which means delicious. Or we can say ayos mazarap. Ooh. Very good, delicious. Let's test it out and see if it actually is.
Careful, it's probably not.
Whoa, she's a chef. Chef, scholar, and beautiful. Wow. From my man Daraj Moran, how was the gigantic jackfruit? Well, I didn't actually eat the gigantic jackfruit. I considered eating it, but I ended up just skipping it. From EDH101985, what's the best overall island? I haven't been to enough islands to say that, but drop a comment below, guys, and that way anyone who is watching this video will get an idea of what the majority is saying for the best island. I would say Boracay is more condensed with a lot of stuff to do, whereas El Nido, Palawan, it's a massive island. So I only explored just the El Nido part of Palawan, and so there's so much more to explore. So I don't have enough experience traveling the islands to even give you like a great opinion on it. So trust the comments. And last but not least, we're going to answer one more question. Shali Luiz, with whom did you travel to Philippines? Did Luke, Demant, Harry join with you? No, actually, I didn't travel with any of them. I probably will travel with them to the Philippines at some point because they all love the Philippines. I love the Philippines. But on this trip, I went solo for the first part. I ended up meeting with my buddy Yad Ventures, who you probably saw in some of the videos. I met with my buddy Waleed's Journeys, who you saw in a couple of the videos. And then I spent the last, I would say like 5 or 6 days, something like that, with my brother exploring the islands because he was meeting some of his team members who are Filipino in the islands. And so, yeah, basically that's who I went there with. It was mostly a solo trip and then a brothers trip. That's ultimately how I was able to make it work to do this trip. So, yeah, loved the experience. And that's the end of the questions, my friends. Now, I am going to tell you there are so many more questions you guys asked, but I just know from making a lot of Q&As in countries that if I do too many questions and answers, then ultimately you guys will end up not watching the video all the way through. So I answered the most commonly asked questions, some interesting ones for you guys. And if you have any more questions, definitely drop a comment down there below. And so, yeah, guys, overall, such an amazing experience in the Philippines. I will be back soon, as I've mentioned like 10 times now in the video. And I want to explore more of the islands. I want to try more foods. I want to meet more of you guys and all of it. So thank you so much for watching. And as always, guys, we have a lot more content coming out on this channel. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're not already. And we'll see you in the next one.